What's up guys, this is Zach with Top Deck Nation, and today we're going to be covering another deck from the upcoming Burning Shadow set, and that is going to be Gardevoir GX. Now, if you're new to the channel or just haven't been keeping up with our other Burning Shadows videos, check out our other ones. We have some other deck profiles up featuring things like Gallade GX and Darkrai GX. We also did a deck battle video featuring those two head-to-head, so be sure to check those out. But today we're going to be looking at a Gardevoir GX deck, and this is probably one of the most hyped decks from this set, and I think it's going to be really competitive. I've been testing it the past few days, and it's just insanely good. It's just really powerful deck. So I'm going to walk you guys through that and explain some of my card choices as well. So starting off, if you don't know what Gardevoir GX does, it's got a lot of things going for it. First of all, it has an ability that lets you attach a fairy energy from your hand to your Pokemon each turn. And this does stack, meaning that say I've got 3 Gardevoir GX out, I've got 3 fairy energy in my hand, or I Fisherman for a few energy, I can attach all 3 of those, and that doesn't even count as my attachment for the turn. So as you can imagine, I can attach a couple of those fairy energies, a Double Colorless energy, and a choice band, and suddenly I'm doing a lot of damage. And speaking of which, that brings us to the attack. It's for a single fairy energy, and it does 30 damage times the number of energy on both active Pokemon. So if you're familiar with Lugia's Arrow Ball or Mewtwo EX's X Ball from back in the day, this is basically the same thing here. It only requires 1 energy, so technically you don't really need much to power it up if you just want to maybe 2-shot your opponent. But this is a heavy beatdown deck, and that's why we're playing things like Double Colorless energy and Choice Band. We're trying to pile the energy on Gardevoir and do a bunch of damage. Now, as far as the GX attack, it's really just kind of like a Gardevoir counter, the Trash Lynch one. What it does, it lets you actually shuffle 10 cards from your discard pile into your deck, and that is ridiculous. Now, the flip side of that kind of makes it balanced, is the fact that you're kind of clogging up your deck again, so you have to be really careful with that. But if you are going against like a Trash Lynch Gardevoir deck, you've already set up and everything, it might be a good idea just to do that, so it basically renders that Gardevoir useless. Now, as you can see here, we're playing a 4-2-3 line. I think that's plenty for the most part, since we're playing recovery cards like Rescue Stretcher and Super Rod. But as you can see, we're also playing a copy of Gallade, and that Premonition ability is really great. It lets you rearrange the top 5 cards of your deck, so you can look at them, see what you might need, and rearrange those. And that obviously has some synergy with Octillery here, and we're playing a 2-1 line of Octillery. Octillery lets you use this Abyssal Hand ability, and that lets you draw up to 5 cards, up until your hand has 5 cards, I should say. So obvious synergy with Gallade there. And honestly, you may not even use the Gallade very often. You may be focusing on Gardevoir, but there might be some matchups where you might use it. Maybe against Drampa GX, Darkrai GX, anything that's actually weak to fighting, you might be using it in those matchups. But overall, that is going to be the Gardevoir line. The reason behind the 2-1 Octillery line, you really want to Brigette the first turn and get that Remoraid out, so if it's prized, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. So that is why we play 2 Remoraid versus 1. And as far as the other Pokemon, we've got 2 Tapu Lele-GX. That Wonder Tag ability lets us grab our supporters, which is especially good since we play a lot of one-of supporters, as you can see here. And then finally, Alolan Vulpix is probably my pick as far as getting set up. I did test it with the Diancie from Burning Shadows, but I really didn't like it because the attack costs an energy. So the first turn of the game, if I've got a Ralts active, let's say I retreat out with a fairy energy, and then I've just got to pass. I can't really use that Diancie until the second attack, and then it's kind of wasting energy at the same time. So I think Alolan Vulpix is really good, and it plays kind of like a psychological effect on your opponent as well. Basically, you can either search for the 2 Pokemon that you need and pretty much get a really good setup the following turn, or your opponent's going to have to force an N on you, in which case you get a fresh hand of 6 cards anyway, especially early game. So either way, Alolan Vulpix's free attack really benefits you. Now, as far as our supporters go, like I said, we have a lot of 1-of supporters here. I'll try to explain each one of them if I can. We play 4 Professor Sycamore. That's pretty standard, making sure we draw a bunch of cards every turn. Same with 3N. We're shuffling things into our a deck that we don't really want to discard. It's really good early game, not so much late game, which is why we're just playing 3. And then our one of supporters here, I did a split of the Lysandre and Guzma. Originally, I had 2 Guzma in here because I think it's really good, but there will be some situations where when I switch out, I can't exactly free retreat back into the Gardevoir. So there might be situations where you're just kind of whiffing the float stone, you can't retreat out. So in those situations, Lysandre is a better fit, but Guzma is great because it does give you an extra switching out. So like I said, those situations where they Lysandre up Octillery or something and pass, they're trying to stall, I can now Guzma and retreat out into the Gardevoir and do a lot of damage. Skyla is also good because we can Skyla for pretty much any trainer card in the deck. We're playing a lot of trainer cards. I think we're playing like 30 some trainer cards, so it can search out any one of those in a turn, and that's really good with Octillery's Abyssal Hand. So we can have draw support and the ability to search out for any trainer card. So this is really going to be important if you want to land that turn 2 Gardevoir thanks to rare candy. So you can Tapu Lele, you can get Skyla off Tapu Lele, and then you can get that rare candy. So really good. Brigette is also very self-explanatory simply because it's getting you set up. Usually I would say the ideal bench would probably be something like 3 Ralts, the Remoraid, and maybe like the Alolan Vulpix or something like that. So you want to have a pretty ideal bench like that, and Brigette's going to help you accomplish that. Now Fisherman, I was actually on the fence about when I was building the deck, but after testing it, it's just really, really good, especially if you have multiple Gardevoir out. Being able to get all those energy back and just reattach them, just really strong. I mean, you can basically think of each energy in the deck as like an extra 30 damage or even 60 with DCE. So basically Fisherman is almost like saying, you know, add plus 30 damage for each energy you attach. It's kind of a different kind of function in this deck compared to something like Greninja. And finally, we have Hex Maniac, just because pretty much every deck is so reliant on abilities. This will be rotating in the next couple months, so it'll be sad to see it go. But right now, it's a really strong card. This is more of like a Worlds format list. And if you want, I can try to put a post-rotation list up as well. Just let me know in the comments or like the video if you want to see that. Now, as far as the item cards, we have pretty standard counts here, nothing out of the ordinary. We have 4 Ultra Ball to make sure we get all our Pokemon out, 4 Rare Candy because this is an evolution deck. We want to try to get that Gardevoir out as soon as possible. 3 Verse Seeker, just because we don't really rely on it all that much, mainly for our one-of supporters, but Tapu Lele is really good for getting our supporters out. Octillery is good for drawing cards, so we can actually squeeze in some other cards and make room for those instead of playing the 4 Verse Seeker. 3 Choice Band, again, it's just another damage modifier. In situations where you want to one-shot your opponent, Choice Band, DCE, Gardevoir's ability, those are all going to come into play here, so it's really important that we put as much damage on the board as possible. 2 Float Stone, just because we need a way to retreat out. So we don't really need any other outs, just because Gardevoir's ability is almost serving as like a function to retreat. If they Lysandre something up like Tapu Lele, I just use Gardevoir's ability to attach an energy, and then I retreat out and just attack. So I think Float Stone is the way to go. I've seen some decks running Fairy Garden, and I think Fairy Garden will be good after the rotation. It'll still be legal since it was reprinted and I think Fates Collide, but I think right now Float Stone is pretty much the way to go here, just because you don't have to commit any energy to that. We're also playing 2 Fill Blower just to make sure we knock off our opponent's stadiums and their choice bands and float stones. Really, this is in there for the Garbotox and Garbodor, which shuts off your abilities. We want to make sure that our abilities are always on. We want to make sure that we're using Premonition, we're drawing cards with Abyssal Hand, we're attaching energy with Gardevoir. So as you can see, 2 Fill Blower is a must in this deck. And then finally, I've decided to split the Super Rod and Rescue Stretcher count. Most decks that I've been running are playing 2 Rescue Stretcher. They're not really playing Super Rod anymore. You just kind of conserve your resources. But this is a deck where I think you really need to focus on making sure you always have that energy. So there might be some turns where you have to Sycamore away a couple energy. So we want to make sure we get those back as quick as possible. But that is going to wrap up the list, guys. I think Gardevoir is one of the most powerful Burning Shadows cards coming out. The ability is just really, really good. Anything that attaches free energy, it has that energy acceleration, really good. The attack is great. The GX attack is solid. It counters Garbodor. And then you have just so much else going for it. You've got the combo of Gallade and Octillery. You've got the setup from Alolan Vulpix. I mean, you have pretty much everything going for the deck, and it has pretty good matchups all around. But let me know in the comments what you guys think. Are there any changes you would make or any additions? Let me know what kind of matchups you think this deck will have. And lastly, let me know how you think the deck will perform at Worlds. Will it be really, really good? Do you think some kind of secret deck is going to pop up? Do you think Metagross is going to be big to counter it? Just let me know. And while you're at it, just be sure to give me a big like and consider subscribing to the video as well. Your support has been amazing, guys. Let's try to shoot for 2,500 subscribers by the end of the summer. I think we can make it happen. But in the meantime, this has been Zach with Top Deck Nation. We should have a deck battle video up pretty soon featuring this deck, Gardevoir GX, against Ho-Oh GX, and that's going to be more of like a Volcanion deck variant featuring Ho-Oh GX. So stay tuned for that. We should have it up this weekend. But in the meantime, thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll catch you in the next video as always.